Sherlock Holmes, birth at 1854. His ancestors were country squires. His grandmother was sister to the French artist Vernet Holmes' brother, Mycroft. He's a government official. Mycroft has a unique civil service position as a kind of human database for all aspects of government policy. Usually going by the alias M, he lacks Sherlock's interest in physical investigation. However, preferring to spend his time at the Diogenes Club, Sherlock is psychic. His strongest ability is his psychometrics, which is touch-based clairvoyance, meaning that he can accurately visions about people and objects he touches, but pseudo methods of deduction to hide his psychic visions. As an undergraduate, his earliest cases which he pursued as an amateur came from fellow university students. A meeting with a classmate's father led him to adopt deduction as a profession, and he spent several years after university as a consultant before financial difficulties led him to search for a roommate, where at an underground boxing match he wanted to shake hands with one of the boxers, John H. Watson, where he instantly saw Watson's life flashing before his eyes. Watson, having studied at St. Bartholomew's Hospital in London, receiving his medical degree from the University of London in 1878, and subsequently being trained at Netley as an assistant surgeon in the British Army. He joined British forces in India with the 5th Northumberland Fusiliers before being attached to the 66th Berkshire Regiment of Foot. Saw service in the Second Anglo-Afghan War, and is also a pure-blooded werewolf that involuntarily changes into his wolfman form after looking at the full moon. Sherlock can't believe his vision, not believing in werewolves, but also saw that Watson too is falling on hard financial times for a returning military veteran and doctor. Sherlock invites him to be his roommate. The two take lodgings at 221B Baker Street, London, an apartment at the upper north end of the street, up 17 steps. Watson witnesses Holmes' skills of deduction on their first case together, even though Sherlock used his psychometric powers, and then those just lead him to clues, where he then backwards comes up with deductions concerning a series of murders related to Mormon intrigue. When the case is solved, Watson is angered that Holmes is not given any credit for it by the press. When Holmes refuses to record and publish his account of the adventure, Watson endeavors to do so himself. In time, Holmes and Watson become close friends. John Watson is always trying to be a better underground boxer. In many of England's secret fight clubs, he is always waking up early and then going jogging, and has a mattress strapped to one of the roof's supports that he punches, and always tries to see how many push-ups and sit-ups he can do every day. Always talking about how someday he wants to be a contestant for something called the Secret World Martial Arts Tournament. Sherlock, while Watson is out, takes his hair samples he finds all over Watson's bed and notices claw marks. He also shuts himself in on nights of a full moon. Maybe he is a werewolf. John Watson becomes engaged to Mary Morstan, a governess. Morstan has died by the time Holmes returns after faking his death. Watson had at that time deserted me for a wife. Watson moves back to Baker Street to share lodgings with Holmes. Watson states he had neither kith nor kin in England. His father and older brother are deceased. Their residence is maintained by their landlady, Mrs. Hudson. Nevertheless, Holmes' friendship with Watson is his most significant relationship. When Watson is shot, he is moved by Holmes' reaction, though when Holmes examines the wound, notices that the bullet didn't even break his skin. His werewolf theory is becoming more feasible. It was not worth a wound, it was worth many wounds to know the depth of loyalty and love which lay behind that cold mask. The clear, hard eyes were dimmed for a moment and the firm lips were shaking. For the one and only time I caught a glimpse of a great heart as well as a great brain. All my years of humble but single-minded service culminated in the moment of revelation, wrote John Watson. Sherlock experiments with cocaine, morphine, and opium for recreational use. Watson tells Sherlock that he has a problem too, that he's a werewolf, and Sherlock tells him he knows, and Watson asks, "How long have you known?" And he says, "The moment I shook your hand," and explains that he's a fraud, actually, because he doesn't actually solve cases with powers of deduction, but through his psychic powers, that his brother, Mycroft, always told him to hide for his safety. Irene Adler is a retired American opera singer and actress. Sherlock obsesses over Irene Adler, unable to control himself, but also tells Watson he doesn't love her or even like her, but he can't stop thinking about her. Adler had a brief liaison with Crown Prince of Bohemia, Wilhelm von Ormstein. The prince is engaged to another. The marriage would be called off if his fiancée's family learns of his past impropriety. Ormstein hires Holmes to regain a photograph of Adler and himself. Sherlock has a random vision of a murder of a girl in America, Tessible Skinner, who is a squatter in an apartment complex owned by Dr. H.H. Holmes, who plans on murdering her by filling her room with poisonous gas via a lever mechanism built into his property. And Sherlock explains this to Watson, and they're like, "Yes, we're going to America." Mycroft, or M, prepares some gadgets for them. Hidden knives, books that are guns, shoes that explode seconds after stomping really hard, leg-mounted grappling hooks, and of course, black masks to hide their identities, warning his younger brother Sherlock that the Americas are a dangerous place. But Sherlock and Watson look at each other and smile, saying, "Oh, I don't think we'll be needing any of those." They go to America and are harassed by a detective of the region who, going through their belongings, finds a hidden horse-mounted Gatling gun, and Sherlock says, "Well, Detective Tom Sawyer, I've never seen that in my life." Detective Sawyer lets Sherlock go because of orders down the grapevine, and Sherlock goes to confront Dr. H.H. Holmes and saves Tess Skinner from her landlord. When H.H. Holmes is confronted, he pulls a lever, and his apartment complex turns into a giant mechanism of moving parts with legs and arms, and Sherlock is like, maybe some of Mycroft's gadgets would have been useful right now, while Watson is forced to turn into a werewolf to fight the thing, and Detective Sawyer reveals that he's been following them and starts dual-wielding revolvers. Tess Skinner thanks Sherlock for saving her, and Sherlock says just because she was a squatter, that doesn't mean she deserves to be murdered by her landlord, who had killed many of his tenants before after filing life insurance policies on them. Sawyer sees Sherlock and Watson as some really decent fellows, even though Watson is a werewolf. They return to England and keep solving mysteries when Sherlock uncovers an extensive crime network led by another psychic, Moriarty, who can push thoughts into people's minds and make them do whatever he wants. Sherlock corners Moriarty on the Titanic, but the ship hit an iceberg and begins sinking. John Jacob Astor stares at a painting while the ship sinks, and Sherlock begins breaking chairs and tables. Watson goes, "Good idea, Sherlock, let's get angry," and starts breaking stuff too. When Sherlock tells Watson to get as many women and children on lifeboats as he can, hours later, as the boat is lifted vertically by one half filling with water, he sees Sherlock tackle Moriarty, who was using his mind powers to get into a boat, off the side of the ship. Watson dog paddles trying to get into lifeboats, but the women and children swing at him with their oars. Eventually, help does arrive, and Watson is the only survivor in the water because the cold didn't affect him, being a werewolf. He then sees Sherlock aboard the rescue ship and asks how he survived, and Sherlock explains how he knew men weren't going to be allowed on the lifeboats, and so when they were breaking chairs and tables, he used those to construct his own life raft. Watson, "But I saw you go over the side with Moriarty." Sherlock explains, "Yes, but I was wearing Mycroft's leg-mounted grappling hook and used it to swing myself to my life raft." Watson, kind of angry about swimming in the cold water for so long, says, "You could have told me about your life raft." Later, back in England, Sherlock is invited by one of his intellectual friends to witness his new great invention, the time machine. Sherlock shakes his hand and, seeing his future with the device, decides to steal it for himself, and Watson sneak in and steal the time machine. Watson going, "Are you sure you know how to work this thing?" Sherlock saying, "It's got a lever and backwards and forwards as the two directions, and those are the entirety of the controls," and they disappear.